You're getting sleepy. Very, very. No, you're probably getting dizzy. Whatever you're doing, you're hearing about this bait, an urchin style bait, a kyoiki, the craze of the kyoiki, or this Berkeley Meba. Everybody talking about this style of bait. And that's what we get into this week on Jake's Take. We have him directly from the back deck of Brandon Palaniuk's boat, Tristan McCormick's boat, and we get some juicy, juicy details on this bait and a whole bunch of surprises this week on Put in Your Mouth.
Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, and of course you, my humpers. Happy hump day to all of you, and welcome into the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. This is the 264th edition of the Mercer Podcast, and I hope wherever you're watching or listening from that life is treating you well. This week's show is a fun one. I mean, Jake Latendresse returns to the show. Always a fun time when Jake's Take is here. He's got some juicy behind the scenes details on some stuff. And we dig deep into the urchin style bait that I'm kind of in love with, but kind of hate with, because it is wonderful weather here now. I've been spending a little time on Lake Erie. I'm getting ready to go swim with the fish here in a day or so. So, I mean, things are good. I'm back in my happy place. But here's one negative that happened. Blasted them on Erie the other day with my buddy Simon Frost. I caught 2 6.5s, maybe a 6 3/4, living large. Life is good. And I sat down to edit a video, which thankfully is going off. It's the underwater video I posted on the Berkeley Meba, and I had to sit down and edit it. I mean, shot it the other day, but I need to post it, so I was going to sit down and edit it. I mean, this is going to take me 10 minutes while we're fishing, right? I mean, you got to slide some work in there. And I jokingly said, "Well, Simon, you'll probably catch a 7." Well, he did. He caught a 7 1/4 while I was editing it. So part of me loves this. I mean, I love the fact that video's absolutely blowing up. I hate the fact that my friend has that to rub in. But if you fish with Simon Frost on Erie, he's going to be a lot of rubbing because he's pretty stinking good out there. But things have been good. This is a fun show. We dig into all sorts of stuff. And I thank you all for taking the time to watch this particular brand of tomfoolery, and rather than me continue to talk away and distract you from the copious amounts of urchin style baits you're seeing online, let's just jump right into this show. Without further ado, it is another episode of Jake's Take.
5, 4, 3, 2.
We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, look at us. Did that make us sound more professional or less professional, Jake?
Yes.
That's the perfect answer to that. Good to have you back.
Thank you for having me back.
Always, but it's full-fledged, feeling like summer here, and we had no spring. It literally shifted right into summer, and I've been blasting fish and getting ready to swim with some fish here later this week, getting attacked by ticks. So it's
what's up with that?
It was good. It was fun. Yeah, it's always fun to get a tick bite, and then you think of what happened to Kyle Patrick, and you take it more serious. And anyways, I've dealt with said tick, I think. We'll find out if I start to go.
I hope so. I told you in a text yesterday that I had an experience with the tick when I was 18 years old.
Of course you did.
I got bit. Yeah, why not? Why not? What else you got, Dave?
Go ahead. Finish your story.
I got bit on the forehead by a tick. I was weed eating in my parents' backyard, and it got infected or something happened. This was way, way long time ago. And I ended up going to the hospital. I was in the hospital for 10 days. For the first 10 days, they could not figure out what was going on. So they transferred me to St. Thomas Hospital in Nashville, and they got an infectious disease specialist in there. And he found that I had Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So I was in the hospital for a month, and I had a temperature that fluctuated from 103 to 106 for over 3 weeks. And it was horrible. So I hope that your tick bite is way less infectious than mine was. So you're all good.
Mine seems okay, I think. I mean, we'll find out.
Not all
if I show up at
disease.
An event with a bunch of like zinc on my face,
yeah.
You know, I got full Cal Patrick.
And you're super spastic. Yeah. That's what they'll do to you.
Yeah. Here's the most traumatic stuff from my tick bite. So rather than your head down working, you got it in the head. I don't know what I was up to because I got mine in the belly.
It crawled up your pants.
Like, you know, I got to
crawled up your pants and was like, I'm going to keep going.
Maybe there's bigger stuff ahead.
That doesn't look like a place I want to bite.
My belly. So, which made it worse because I had to go in there like, where's your tick bite? I'm like, well, it's on my belly. And then when they finally got to taking the tick out of me, I mean, I haven't even told my wife this traumatic experience. I'm laying on the table, whatever it's called. You know what I mean? A table, I guess. So I'm laying there and the nurse comes down. She's got like the tick remover and she's working down, you know, my belly area. Right. And so I'm just laying there and got this nurse down there, my lower region. And she goes, oh, it's so little. It's just a little guy. And I'm like, what? Are we talking about the tick?
You're like, oh, yeah, man.
So that's how I'm dealing with it.
For people that don't know this, if you do get a tick that bites you and is stuck in you, do not grab it by the abdomen and squeeze it and pull it out. You need to take tweezers, grab it by the I guess its nose or its bite, and pull it out with tweezers so you get everything out. Because if you squeeze it and you pull it out, it's like a bulbous, like an eyedropper, and it squeezes the blood from the tick back into your body, which is primarily how a disease is transmitted into a human. So be careful how you pull ticks.
Gosh, you bring different things to this show that I do not.
I'm just trying to inform people. I went to the hospital
because we didn't have a tick remover. They say you got to get, like, they've got this remover that they put it and then they twist. And she actually gave me a few removers. So shout out to her.
There you go.
I think I'm fine. If not, I bequeath you this show in my will, Jake. You can.
Jake's take will not be the same without you, Dave. Jake's, yeah. I'll have my own show by then.
Well, speaking of taking over, the freaking entire bass fishing world has lost their mind for the kyoike.
It's insane, dude. It's like it's like Godzilla was to King Kong way back when in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Urchin style baits everywhere. I mean, I've never seen, I knew the Berkeley one was coming for a while, but I've never seen this quick of reaction, this amount of companies like Bad Knock. There's some really bad, like you look at a quickie, all the legs stand up and it's got some rigidity to it. Then you see like these, it just looks very, but anyways, they're selling. I had a buddy of mine at a tackle store said that he's selling more of this style of bait than any bait he's ever sold in history. Like, and he's been through the craze of the chatterbait, of any of that, through the Alabama rig craze. He's been through all those. He's never seen this many people want to get their hands on what I call a kyoike. but you call it something
The
different, right, Jake?
Japanese pronunciation, and I got this straight with Sago at the Open on Kentucky Lake last weekend. I said, we were driving, I was with Tristan McCormick, and we were driving by Sago, and I said, is it Koike, or Koike? And he says, it's Koike. That's and it means, I believe it means many arms.
Hairy. Many arms, many hairs.
Yeah.
Many hairs. See, I've done some research too. Nobody's going to say it like that, Jake, just so you know. Like, what is it again? Give us the proper pronunciation.
Koike.
Wow.
That's it.
It's kind of fun to say, maybe. Let us know in the comments. Will Koike take over? Or will it just stay the Koike?
Koike. That's what most people call it, Koike. And I started laughing. It's like, it's not a cork. It's not a corkscrew or a cork. It's a Koike. Could be at some point. It might at some point become a cork because they're using it so many different ways. I told Brandon Palaniuk at Santee Cooper that this is the most versatile bass bait I've ever seen in my life, because going back to Taku and his early days with the Koike, which I still have, he was rigging it like a Tokyo rig with a small, everything was hand designed. This, like, the development of the Koike is developing like things do, where it starts out fairly primitive and people start tweaking it with paper clips and nail weights and, earrings and all kinds of stuff. And as the manufacturers catch on to these different techniques, my prediction is there are going to be different styles of Koikes that come out. And it's just going to continue to develop. However, and we can talk about this a little bit later in our very short segment, that there are other baits coming up behind the Koike, which is if you haven't caught on to the fact that the Japanese will develop something, and then when it goes viral, like the Koike is, they just come out with something new because they don't get caught up in combat fishing. Well, they have to, but they're used to combat fishing. So they're very well refined in their manufacturing style in terms of developing something new, keeping it a secret. And 6 years from now, it's going to be, people are going to freak out over it. I've already seen some of them.
Well, that's already happening though, too, because the original,
they're ahead of it.
I mean, it wasn't even designed to be fished the way it is. From what I've been told, it was actually designed to be like a topwater bait. And that's how people started fishing it. And then it's evolved, and it isn't even new in Japan. Like, it's been around a long time. But you can't convince people of that, because they're boy, if you thought there was a lot of dice style baits last year at ICAST, this year's ICAST is about to embarrass that. Everybody's going to have their version of
sea urchins.
Yeah, urchin style baits everywhere. When's the first time you saw
it? For sure with Taku, probably up on the St. Lawrence River, and they were the small 15 millimeter Koikes, and they've grown. They've grown enormously now. And I actually thought about this a long time ago, where watching Taku on many occasions on Smith Lake when he won the spotted bass tournament there, St. Lawrence River with smallmouth, and then watching Kyoya Fujita catch 8-pounders on $1,000 rods and $1,000 spinning reels with heavy 25-pound fluorocarbon on spinning rigs, catching 8-pounders out of the tops of submerged trees on Lake Fork. at that point, I remember specifically one day on Lake Fork with Killia thinking people are going to start power fishing with this thing because he's putting nail weights in them. Taku was using it like a small Tokyo rig, which weighted it and it made it crawl on the bottom. And I find one other thing very interesting about the Koike is that people are describing, because people are asking, what on earth does that possibly replicate in the natural world? Because, conventional wisdom tells us to match the hatch, right? We match with shad, crawfish, whatever, salamanders, whatever's in the biomass that becomes the main forage base for your target species. People wonder what, and the theory up to a certain point was, dude, it's just something new that the fish have never seen before, right? And then you talk to someone like Chris Johnston, and he tells you, like when he won Santee Cooper, he's saying he caught 10 fish under 4 pounds with it, and he caught like 40 fish over 4 pounds with it, and they're using the 23 millimeter, which is like almost from tip to tip, it's almost the size of a tennis ball. So it's a very large profile bait. And then I heard someone explaining to another guy at the Open that the dark ones, they're using pumpkin seed colors, green, olive colored ones. They're using very dark brown ones, some that are almost black with red tentacles. They're using light pink ones, white ones. There's so many different colors. And one of the most interesting theories about what it replicates was someone said to another guy that was on the dock at the Open at Kentucky Lake that the dark ones, when it pulsates, it looks like a small bait ball of a small fry ball of baby fish. And that's what they're attacking. And then you get to thinking about it. It's like, that actually kind of makes sense, but who knows? Who knows what the real theory is? What's your theory, Dave?
Today's high-tech fishing world can be a real pain in the neck, especially if you're running the wrong mounts. Beat Down Outdoors, they bring the graph to you, and they support this podcast and care enough about you to make this a short ad read. Check out Beat Down Outdoors. Now back to the show. I don't think we'll ever find out, obviously. We're not a bass, but I think my theory has evolved. Initially, I've always said I just think it's a cat toy. It's something you shake in front of a fish. You can make it move without moving. But that's kind of changed recently in the way that, because when they were fishing at forward facing sonar, that's all it is. I mean, it's sight fishing it's no different than bed fishing. You know what I mean? Like you're shaking a bait in front of a fish. It has lots of movement without moving.
Cat and mouse.
Makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
But that wouldn't have happened. Like Chris Johnston, what he did at that tournament, what Palaniuk did at that tournament. And I overheard something that Palaniuk had said in pre-fish when he was talking to Carl. And I didn't even hear it. Somebody else had told me. But, I mean, Chase Sampson told me this. So it's all out.
This is important, too, because he and Carl were communicating very acutely on this.
He was in the boat with Carl during pre-fish. So they're in the boat and they're fishing, and Brandon and Carl talked, throughout the tournaments. They, like many people that, will throw each other a bone.
Information. Yep.
Brandon Palaniuk's exact words: a cast without a kyoiki in this tournament is a wasted cast.
Yep. So
that blows away the theory of the cat toy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because now you're like, well, the docks that they were fishing, that Chris was fishing, tons of dudes fished. I mean, I sat angler after angler in live cast, and they came into this, our trailer. RIP.
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast. Arson.
I don't think it was driving down the road.
I know. I'm kidding.
we'd get a lot more clicks on the podcast if we would just say stuff like that.
I know.
But if you see what happened with them, so they're fishing the same area, and I had angler after angler come in and be like, I fished those docks. But you're getting a different reaction from throwing this bait. And I've heard people throw the theory out, like much smarter people than me, that it's zooplankton that is encoded into the fish's head from when it's little, and it's just this giant zooplankton.
Blah, 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 blah.
I think I'm never going to be smart enough to understand that. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Here's a unique theory, though, and I've really been thinking about it a lot. And he's becoming a character on the show because I brought him up last week because he was actually here. And that's Lincoln, my buddy Lincoln. Let's give his company a shout out again. Wild Out Wildlife Control. If you're in need of some Wild Out Wildlife Control, holler at my boy Lincoln. If you're in my part of the world, Southern Ontario, he'll get your critters gone, and he'll also make your house prepared so the critters can't get in. But here's his theory, and I never thought about this before, but he said, I think it's a crayfish swimming. And that seems simple, but let's really just, and when he first said that, I said, sure, because you're getting so many bites jerking the bait. You know what I mean? And you think about that and the water displacement and everything that it does. And I thought, well, that's maybe it could be. But then I got to thinking, like, if you watch them, so I've been shooting a bunch of underwater stuff with the Berkeley version, the amoeba. And it's amoeba. It's amoeba without the A or E or
right,
however
it's
that's
amoeba.
Yeah. So you get an incredible amount of bites with that. But here's one thing that everybody that fishes it says over and over again. They don't hold on to it. They take it to the throat meat, like right away. They never nip at it. They go, it's gone.
Yes. It's always buried.
And then they spit it out pretty quick. They'll spit it out quick, and if you watch 100%. Underwater footage, that's exactly how they eat a crayfish or a crawfish, depending on what part of the world you're from. Every time a bass inhales it, and then they'll spit that thing out a lot of times to reposition it. But it's like the first hit is to kill it, stun it, and then it goes to eating it, which is exactly how they eat this.
Like
so again, we'll never know, but
I agree with that. And I to add, here we are theorizing,
what a bass thinks.
Right, exactly. And we're way, way, way less smart than a bass. I promise you that. At least I am. But I think that all the above are solid theories, because when you think about fry balls, you think about anything in the water that does pulsate or jerk or anything like that triggers a fish. So I think we tend to overthink it, and that the simplicity of the answer is a natural instinct, the cat and mouse game. You go right back to it. Even when they started, forward facing sonar with the minnow, and being in the boat with people like Taku, Kyoya, Daisuke Aoki, Yui Aoki, all these Japanese guys that weren't freaking out over its newness and its effectiveness. They were constantly trying to refine it, and they had been using it for long enough to understand what was triggering the fish. And when I saw Daisuke Aoki using it at Chickamauga out on the open water, he was twitching it differently, and he was tick, 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 tick. And then, again, you take some of these younger guys that are really good with forward facing sonar, they're using different minnow baits and koikes now and all those things. And they all have they're all reading the fish, right? They read the fish behavior and they allow the fish to tell them what they want, right? That's the old conventional wisdom of fishing. Let the fish tell you what they want. And when they start to twitch it a certain way, and it's interesting too, because the koikes are weighted differently. People put,
also known as the koike.
Koike, whatever. Yeah. The American version of or Canadian version of Koike.
For the whites in the audience.
Correct. Yeah. For all the white people out there. Everyone has a different weight and the way they approach putting the weights inside the bait. I've even seen one now, and I don't remember what the brand is, or I would mention it, but there are guys now that have these weights with barbs opposing that are facing up. You stick it all the way through, and it's got an eye on the top of it like a hook, and you stick it all the way to the bottom. You poke it out the bottom, and it's got a little cup on the very bottom of the weight, so it can't come out. So, and these things are very resilient. The type of material and the mixtures they put in the compound that they use to create the original, especially the original Koike, is you could probably fish multiple tournaments with one bait as long as you don't lose it, and it's quite the trip. I mean, this is like the Star Wars era of bass fishing with front facing sonar and Koikes.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, Chris said on this show, he made one comment that I thought is 100% true. He said in 4 or 5 years, we're probably going to laugh at how we're rigging it today. Like, I think that's going to evolve so much. I think that rigging is huge with it. Like,
yep,
I mean,
huge.
A couple of like, I think when the bait, here's what I learned. You always think weightless is better. And what happens with them when they're falling weightless, and this is the Meba, when it's falling weightless, you don't get as much action out of it. So in my experience, like to make them bite, you want a little bit of weight. You want it to fall a little quicker so you get more movement out of those. It's pretty cool to me. Like, it's been a while since there's been something come along that is evolving right in front of our very eyes.
Oh, you mean like live scope?
Yeah, but I feel like this is a lot more friendly. Like, more people like this. I mean, live scope.
Everybody likes that. Palaniuk told me, he's got a guy up in Idaho that made a mold, and he was making them like he had them overnighted to Brandon because Brandon only had one more original Koike left. And then he was like, man, this is my last one. So he hooks up in like a 4 or 5 pounder at Santee Cooper, and it spit the freaking bait out, and he lost it. And he goes, oh my God. And I literally was standing there on the back of the boat with the camera in my hand going, okay, now what is he going to do? Yeah. And then he's like, but wait a second. And he lifts his locker open, his middle locker, and pulls out 2 Ziploc bags full of these imitation Koikes that his friend in Idaho made and had overnighted him to South Carolina. And he said, man, I just hope they eat this thing like they do. And it was like the first cast with this new bait, he caught a 5 pounder. So, wow. I think Christine Fisher, I was messaging with her yesterday after she posted something pretty cool on her boat. She was pre-fishing, and some of her friends had in a tandem tournament had either weighed in 22 pounds or something like that. She was really excited. So I typed in something. We were talking about the Koike, and she goes, man, she said, somebody told me that they sold one for $138. And I said, oh, wait a minute. Brandon told me that one of his buddies had a 10-pack of them and sold them for $2,500 for the whole set. And just so you know, I've got like 10 of them in my boat that are still in the box.
You're sitting on a gold mine, bro.
Yeah. So, and as gas prices today, holla at me.
Yeah. No, it's wild. It's an amazing thing that's going to continue to evolve. And,
I love it. I think we are as much as we hear people bitching about what's going on in the bass fishing world and forward facing sonar and this and that and kids overtaking the generational flip of whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think we are living through one of the most exciting times in the evolution of bass fishing. Yes, I love going back and watching the cast and reliving the old school moments and technological advances, wink, wink, way back when, from 50 years ago to now. But what we're going through now, if you look at it and have the right perspective on it, it is a really exciting time in bass fishing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's what blows me away. If I'd have said to you 6 years ago, 2020, in the height of, I'm not even going to say the word. Oh, I'm saying it. Screw it. Because I've once heard, like, if you say that on your videos, you'll get, but the big C, well, it's not the big C. That's something else. COVID. If I'd have told you 6 years ago, I said, Jake, 6 years from now,
I know what you're going to say.
The symbol for this illness that is traveling throughout the world, allegedly, is
the emoji
is going to be the number one lure in bass fishing. You would have been like, I mean, nobody would have believed that, but
we would have been like, Dave, I think COVID got to you, buddy.
It's ridiculous, but it is, it's fun. And I'm sure we're days away from somebody on the internet being that ain't my bass fishing. I don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, because that's so much different than a jig. When a jig flares out.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It's crazy.
And a spinner bait and a chatterbait.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
The versatility of it is really, truly amazing, and how many different ways people are fishing with it. And Tristan and I were talking about this on Kentucky Lake the other day. It's like you could literally use it as an application to any traditional style of fishing, because, you know, if they're deep and they're on the bottom, then you put more weight in it, so it sinks because you got to get to the fish quicker, right? If they're in the treetops, like what Keolia was doing on Lake Fork, you don't weight it because you want it to fall like a parachute. And then when it gets to the fish, he would let it fall, settle, get to the fish's nose, and then twitch it. Boom. There it was cat and mouse. And it's and everything in between. All the weights, the different size weights, the different style, they all come into play. There's no rules now, and everybody can keep an open mind and fish it however they want, and they're probably going to catch fish with it, big ones.
Yeah.
For now.
And then if none of that works, you can throw it as a topwater, which it originally was meant to be. Like, it really is versatile. I think we're just seeing a little bit of it. It's going to be cool to see how it continues to evolve. But let's jump into this show. You were with Brandon Palaniuk at the Elite, Tristan McCormick at the Open. And then after that, we are going to have the top 5 Urchin style baits, Kyoiki style baits, tricks that are things that pros try to hide from the camera. So, but let's jump into it. Let's start in order. Brandon Palaniuk, you got to be with him. And weirdly enough, I feel bad for him. I'm like, the dude weighed in 29 pounds 2 days in a row, and not once did he have the biggest bag of the day. Which just seems stupid.
I know. And, you know, so first of all, let me say this, and I've said this before, and I will continue to say this until the day that I die. Brandon Palaniuk is one of the best people on this planet. He is an amazing human being, first and foremost, before angling, and no one ever knew that until he started angling and became popular because he was winning, because he's really good at what he does. But he is being in the boat with him is a treasure. It's a personal, it goes into the top 2 experiences in my life. Probably actually one of the top 2 people that I've had experiences with over the last 15 years, and it always gets better. He and Lee Livesey are my two favorite people, probably, in terms of friends on tour. And every time I have experiences with them, it just continues to get better. And Brandon Palaniuk is definitely one of those people. He always thinks differently. He was thinking outside of the box at Santee Cooper. He was throwing a 23 millimeter Koike and a Koike imitation that his friend sent him. I have to say it right. My mom would be angry if I did not.
If we had the time, we don't have the time to do this, but if we have the time, I'd ask Sarah to like put every time you say a translator, put closed captions
in Japanese characters. Do that. This thing will go viral into Asia, dude.
Probably not. Probably not.
Come on. But he was throwing the Koike into cypress knees, and interestingly enough, when he got around Tuplos, he could not get bit in the Tuplos. Everything came in the cypress trees, and they were very specific zones on the end of points where they were transition zones where most all his fish were post spawn because they were long and skinny. He caught one literally that went from above his knee to the bottom of the boat. It was so long and it weighed like 7 pounds, but it looked like an 11 pounder. Right. And so he was constantly fishing new water between productive areas, and every so often he would get bit, but primarily, and I say primarily in the 99% percentile of his casts, and they were flips, mostly just like flipping a freaking Texas rig, right? And wait, when is someone going to rig one in a Texas rig? That's something I haven't seen yet. I'm just throwing that out there. But he was throwing it at the base of this one particular point in the cypress trees, and they were spread out. There was space between trees, and he would catch a 5 pounder off of one, and then 7 yards away from that tree, he would catch an 8 pounder. And then fish around those trees, like all the way around them, Greg Hackney style and Jason Christie style. And then move on and come back 3 hours later and literally catch another 6 pounder off one of those trees. So they were reloading, which is why he was so productive, at least for 3 days. And I have an idea that he probably would have been productive in that, particularly in that bite window that started around 8:30 in the morning and lasted till about 10 o'clock. On the last day where he actually, I think where he kind of lost track and lost the tournament was he decided on the last day he was going to do something completely different, go to a totally different area that he had found some significantly larger fish along a completely different area than he was in and never got bit. He might have had 1 or 2 bites, but he just never got traction, and he stayed there till about noon until it was too late. And then he came back to his area, and I think that bite window was gone. Was he going to catch was he going to catch another 28, 29 pounds on the spot he had been catching fish for 3 days? I have no idea. But I'll say this because Brandon would say this. He said it in the boat. He said, I went against conventional wisdom, which tells you don't leave fish to go find fish. And that's what I did. And I took a chance because I really wanted to win this tournament, and it just didn't go my way. When you win a tournament, things go your way. You can't do anything wrong. When you don't win a tournament or you fail on the last day and lose that tournament, you can't do anything right. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what amazes me about it is what I already said, to that level of certainty. And Chris Johnson, the champion, had that level of certainty too. Like from pre-fish, like they didn't say, well, I can only get bid on this. They literally knew that this tournament's going to be won this way.
100%.
That is so kudos to Brandon for a great week, and obviously to Chris Johnson. And Avco not only makes incredible outdoor clothing, but they care about anglers with their 10% pledge. Avco and the Shed family donate at least 10% of the company's profits to conservation and making fishing better. Now back to the show.
Brandon actually brought that up. He said, I asked him, I go, are you going to throw anything else? And he goes, no. I said, you have 100% confidence that this is the bait that's going to win this tournament. This was on like day 3 that I asked him that. He goes, oh yeah, I have no confidence. He didn't say that. He said, I have more confidence in this bait than anything else, and I'm just not going to throw anything. And he threw, when he wasn't getting bit, he didn't do as well.
Caught that one fish, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Aerial footage from West.
Oh, man.
That was the wildest. Like, I was laughing on livecast when he called Lisa, because I'm like, if Lisa's watching this, she should just answer the phone and be like, it's fine. Like, you saw the fish make a jet, like
he ate it,
feet across. So yeah, that was awesome.
And I told Brandon in the boat, I said, and this is so funny. This is a great little story. I said, do you remember when Will Davis Jr. won that tournament at Lay Lake with that jerkbait on that late bedfish in that little pocket in that back swampy cove? And
I'm pretty sure he remembers.
Yeah. He goes, yeah, because I lost that tournament because of that dead fish. Yeah. And I went, oh, shit.
I'm pretty sure he remembers.
But it reminded me, it was that was so funny that I asked him that, and I had forgotten that he had, that dead fish, and it cost him. But that was very, very similar. Those fish, I don't think, were on beds. They had just found a pocket that no one was invading or disturbing. And there was a very unique environment inside that little hole back there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything else with Palaniuk that stands out?
I felt bad. I felt so bad for him. And there was a point where we were idling out of the cypress stumps, which was like a long 20-minute idle. And he turned and said to me, he goes, I think I've succumbed to the fact that I'm not going to win this tournament. And that feels okay. Like I get to that point where I know this is not going to happen, and I'm okay with it now. And that, again, is what takes Brandon to that level of maturity where he sticks around and takes pictures with the winners. He stuck around, had his picture with Chris, congratulated him. He is a humble, I say this tongue in cheek, when he's a humble loser too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I say that with all due respect to Brandon Palaniuk.
Yeah, no, he's, and at least, I would have think that that's an easier one to take, like Chris blasted them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I'd say it's a lot tougher the way he lost to Will Davis.
Yeah, true. That's true.
The behind the scenes is he ran out, and it was weird the way the fish got stuck with a culling thing in his live well, which wouldn't have happened if he didn't make a last minute run. He had the tournament anyways. Yeah. So Koike crazy. What do you call it again? What is it? How is it again?
Koike.
See, if I say it that way, it sounds like I'm being racist. Koike.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's more like a Japanese haiku poem.
Okay.
Koike.
So, Koike craziness.
Koike. I'm gonna write. I'm just for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to write a Japanese haiku poem about the Koike.
I wish you would. I really wish you would.
I'm going to.
I look forward to it. Maybe we'll use it to promote this podcast. So then you leave there. You go fish with Tristan. You go shoot Tristan McCormick at the Bassmaster Open, and guess what?
I know. I knew you were going to say this. Oh no! I thought you were going to say he was in first place on.
Oh no, I wasn't going to say that. I'm not.
That is an important fact, though.
Yeah, you are not on a heater.
I know. I'm in a second place slump.
Yeah. Wow. So talk to me. We got to get to him because we got to do our top five.
Yeah, Kentucky Lake. Being with Tristan and I grew up very close in relation to our homes, different eras, different times, because I'm a lot older than him, but we have the same friends. There was a point in time where, and I think they showed it on live, where Tristan went to New Johnsonville, which has been one of the most famous Kentucky Lake takeoff spots in the history of Kentucky Lake. Yeah. That's where Ray Scott had his bass tournaments, where Bob Murray won in 1969. And that was Bill Dance's breakout tournament when he was 18 years old. He came in second and all those things. That is where I grew up. I literally grew up 2.5 miles west of the New Johnsonville Bridge. And so Tristan made the run from Paris Landing, and I hadn't been down there probably since I covered Edwin Evers way back when he was still at Bassmaster in the Elites. And, you know, I always get emotional. I mean, my dad used to take me out in a 12 or 14 foot John boat with a 15 horse Evinrude on it and get behind the barges and make me run the tiller motor to teach me how to run big water on Kentucky Lake. He used the barge wake to do that. Flooded with emotions because that's where my childhood was. And then all of a sudden, Tristan goes out in front of a place called Cypress Creek and is fishing this creek channel that I was very familiar with. And it used to be a very, very hot spot for big bass. In fact, at one point, Tristan was fishing on, and I can almost guarantee you that his waypoint was on the exact spot my dad used to line that tree up with that buoy and that smokestack from TVA to get to that point. And I almost, shed a tear that it just reminded me. And so one day my dad and I were there and I caught the biggest bass of my youth from that exact spot. It was a 7.5 pounder. And I had that photo. I still have that photo on my phone. So I sent it to Breed Love in studio and they actually put it on with Ronnie Moore and showed that during the broadcast. And I got really emotional by it. So, and being with Tristan, we know all the same people. We know all the same spots. We've duck hunted in the same areas. And he and I are very good friends because of all that. And I covered him in high school and college as well. So I always enjoy being in the boat with Tristan. He's a gentleman. He's a very, very good young angler, and he knows what he's doing. And he was doing the same things. He was throwing a smaller version. He was throwing the 17 millimeter Koike on mostly spinning equipment. So it was a very contrasting technique than what Brandon Palaniuk was doing at Santee Cooper.
Yeah, but still
using it. No. He had a 4-pound lead. He had a 4-pound lead. I know. I didn't have my lucky gator.
Gosh, why do you do that to them? Why do you pick and choose, Jake? Why didn't you just
go with whoever? I do fine. Anyway. We've gotten to that point. We don't really have choices that much anymore. In terms of who we get in the boat with, we're just top 10 guys, and whoever we get in the boat with is whoever we get in the boat with.
Yeah, I got you. So anyways, both great performances, both using the
Koike.
So let's give the top 5 tricks, hidden things people try to hide from the camera guy when they're using an urchin style bait.
Number 5, Koike. The Koike. Number 5, I would say Meba.
That's how you say it. Meba. I'm sounding it out for you.
I saw, Meba. Not amoeba. Meba. I heard Jordan Lee say it on one of his posts. So, and then I think he showed the packaging and showed how it was spelled MEBA, right? MEBA.
Yeah, totally. MEABA. However,
anyhow,
I digress. Number 5.
Number 5 would be just in general. They don't show their bait. They literally have like their baits on the deck are decoys. They're hidden until they get to their spot.
Okay, I'm going to avoid the fact that is a horrible number 5, Jake.
Why?
And I mean, It's the most obvious. Everybody at Fish has been like, we're tired of these people hiding stuff from us. We're tired of them turning their back to us. So it's the most obvious thing, but we'll make fun with it where I will say, who is the worst? Like, who's the hidiest hidier?
Kyoya.
All right.
Okay.
I'm putting the pattern together. But time this is done, we'll all be able to speak Japanese. Ohio. That's good morning, right?
Ohio gozaimasu. Good morning. Yeah. Have a very good morning is Ohio gozaimasu.
You always have to one-up me. I was fine with just good morning. Number 4.
Number 4 would be how they rig it. They don't want people to know how they rig it. Taku gave me 2 from the St. Lawrence River a long time ago. I still have them in Ziplocs, and they're small. They're actually probably more like 10 or 12 millimeter koikes. And they're both rigged up Tokyo rig style. No, I'm sorry. That was from Smith Lake when he won. And he caught that big 5, 15 or 6 pound spot on that tiny little koike. And they were rigged Tokyo rig style because he wanted it to stay on the bottom and he was twitching it in front of those little stumps that the fish were sitting by. So I would say, and the irony is that they don't want people to see how they're rigging it, but little do they know there are other people rigging it the same way. That's the funny part.
Dude, true story. I once, years ago, Dean Rojas, shout out Dean Rojas, a great human, a guy I used to cover on the Elite Series.
Yep.
So back when bass cams were a thing and I would just drive around the lake with Overstreet, he'd take still pictures. I'd do these bass cams. So I shot a bunch of great, and it was hard to get a good bass cam because you couldn't get in the boat with them. You didn't have a mic, whatever. But Rojas is stroking fish. We shoot a bunch of great. He's awesome on camera. He gives, some good stuff and everything. And then I go to leave with Overstreet and he's like, wait. He goes, you're not going to post those, are you? And I'm like, yeah, 100%. Like, I feel like I've done a great job. I'm about to bring some great bass cams. He's like, no, I can't. You can't post those. Everyone will see what I'm using.
Yeah.
Jake, he was using a white swim jig is what he was using.
With lots of action.
Yeah. It's so weird.
In the grass.
Yeah. And I think that, like we talked earlier, Chris Johnson hit the nail on the head. That the evolution of how that bait's going to be rigged is going to be second only to Urchin style baits being released at ICAST will be rigs, hooks, setups like these.
They'll have whole sections of koikes in retail stores.
Yeah,
like Shields will have an entire section of koike style baits. Guarantee it. For sure. I mean, it's just a matter of time before people start throwing it, on Carolina rigs, Texas rigs. They're doing it now. I guarantee you people are out practicing or just experimenting with it right now from the Elite Series, using every single technique that they use with every other bait. And they're combining them all with one bait.
Yeah.
100%.
Number 3, right?
Yes, number 3. Color.
They want to hide the color.
They want to hide the color. They'll put, if everyone knows that they're fishing with koikes, they'll put all the light colored ones on their deck at takeoff. And then when they get to their spot, they'll pull out their sword out of their rod locker and go, zing, and it'll have a dark one on there. And that's what they'll cast with the rest of the day. It's so funny. And then if you go get in another guy's boat on the next day, he'll have a koike that he pulls out of his rod locker, and it'll be white or pink. And they'll be like, don't show this bait because this is the color. And then some other guy's catching them on another point on a different color. You know, I think everybody has their, superstitions or whatever. I guess it goes back to confidence, whatever they're confident in and whatever is built by what the fish are biting. And they think that's the color or that's the style to rig it. And there's some other person somewhere else catching them a completely different way with a different color.
Here's the weird thing to kind of explain how crazy this phenomena is. It's maybe the first bait I ever remember, where guys will ask you for one. And then you say, well, what color? And they'll be like, what color do you have? Like they will take any color, but there's obviously colors that, it's the same with everything. Number 2.
Where they cast it. Their location of cast, where they're catching the fish, whether that is in pockets in grass and open pockets in grass, up tight to cypress stumps or knees, in deeper water along old submerged stump beds. It's location. Like everything, if everyone had the same baits and the same parameters, the one thing that might change that they don't want people to know would be where they throw that bait. And I think that's important too, because it does seem to be a factor. I don't know where I wasn't in the boat with Chris at Santee Cooper. So I don't know if he was just casting it, if he was skipping it deep underneath the docks or if he was fishing along the edges or what was he doing?
I've run a Yamaha outboard for over 30 years. It has got me home safe each and every time. If you enjoy this podcast, remember, Yamaha supports it and they care enough about you to make this ad read very short. Now back to the show. Dude, he was dock fishing, but here's the messed up thing. In the history of covering Bassmaster, like the gnarliest dock, that's where the biggest fish is. That's what he would avoid. Because, I mean, when he wasn't hooked on a bass, he was hooked on the dock, which is why he ended up in the water. But he literally avoided like things that looked really gnarly. And the fish he was basically fishing the ends of docks. You didn't see him go down the dock too much. I mean, fishing the end of docks and fishing it like a jerkbait, basically. He'd let it, and he said he never caught one when it was on the bottom. It was always kind of halfway down. And he was popping it back like a jerkbait.
We haven't seen fish react to a bait like this since the Alabama rig, really.
It's weird. It's weird.
I mean, it's really weird.
and initially, okay, when things become a phenomena, like guess what? In the next few months, there's going to be more fish caught on an urchin style bait than in history. Because guess what? There's going to be more people throwing an urchin style bait than ever in history. But that hasn't been the case up till now. You know what I mean? Like it was thrown by very few initially, and that's become more and more and more. But it's doing things that, and then how long that lasts, we'll only know. We'll find out.
It'll last as long as they keep biting it, it'll last that long. And as soon as they get used to it and stop biting it, it won't last that. Something new is going to come along, right? That's the evolution of bait design, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what'll happen, and I think what you see happen with every bait, and I wish I understood this. I guess fish just get conditioned to a certain point. People will stop throwing it and then it will come back. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird how things
will repeat itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Bell bottoms. I mean,
yeah.
They're horrible, but they've been here several times. Same thing. Horrible, but made several. But some people have a marvelous mullet. Are we on number one?
I think so. That's a tough one. And this is,
we need a drum roll for number one?
I don't know, Dave, because this one is very.
I feel like we should.
Is very okay. I think we should always have a drum roll on number one, but it's going to be a different kind of answer. Oh. Are we ready? Did I blow it? Oh, I don't hear the drum roll. You dub that in later.
Yeah. Well. Sorry.
Okay. Drum roll.
Works.
Drum roll.
It better be worth this drum roll. That's all I'm saying.
When they find a new way to use that bait, then it becomes the biggest secret that they've ever kept. And that is something like, I'll use this as an example. Everyone thought it was a spinning rig setup. And then they start dock fishing with it and flipping it in grass or flipping it into cypress knees. And then they start rigging it with a treble hook through the top. And even Brandon was bending the top of like the barb, the tip end of the hook. He would hook it with one of the hooks in the treble hook, bend it all the way down so it made a loop. So it became a holding hook instead of a bite catching hook. And the other two hooks became like what you see in frogs. It was a 2-hook setup sticking up, right? And I think, in my opinion, that's going to be one of the key hook styles when people figure a manufacturer, whoever does it first, they're going to come up with a hook. So you hook it like a frog and the hooks are sticking up and they're just going to be snagless. Then you can throw that same bait on top water, or you can throw that same bait below the surface on the same exact spots. You could make the same cast 3 different times and have that bait effectively work that location 3 different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think that, so when they switch and they find a new technique, then all of a sudden they know as soon as this airs on television, that technique's going to go away. So they try to hide that as well as they possibly can. So it's a generalized adjustment that they try to hide. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know if it's worth the drum roll though. Like, I feel like
the drum roll will make it better.
Will it? So the drum roll is supporting that.
Yes. Like, what would be a good example? Like just any kind of audio effect, make something better. Like the bomb going off when something exciting happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Try the bomb instead of the drum roll.
That might be after you give the info.
I know. That's what I was thinking. It might come after bomb.
No, it is a phenomena like we've never seen. It's really cool to see. I think you're right. It's going to continuously evolve and it'll be on to something else.
If you want to know how to do everything with the Koike in terms of even taking care of it, watch the Japanese guys. And this is one thing that it's probably top 5 material, but I'll add it as a bonus nugget. And that is how they hang. Don't put the Koikes in a tackle box. And you really don't even want to put a whole bunch of them in a Ziploc bag. What you want to do is hang them from your locker, the locker door on the inside, so they dangle vertically when you shut it and there's nothing impeding it, because those tentacles getting bent up and then deforming itself is really important in the action of the bait. So keep it. That's why it comes in a clear box with that coat hanger inside. So it has the freedom to move and stay in its original shape, and it doesn't get deformed. That's why they do that. So if you really want to know, how to take care of it, watch how Kelia hangs his in his locker door.
Dude, nobody sees that. Nobody sees. They all they know is Kelia holds fish and has a back. Like, that's all he shows.
That's
anybody.
true. He should. Yeah, that's true. His title sponsor should have the entire space on his back, because that's the most visible part of his entire life. His entire life on television.
He's going to show up like those dudes from, did you see the Elevated Games where the Olympics deal where they were allowed to take steroids? So he's going to show up with giant traps just so he can block more. Yeah. Hey, I want to do something. I'm going to call a buddy of mine. You won't be able to hear this. This is an independent tackle store that is near me, and I want to just call him to see how sales have been there of this style bait, just to give people. And this may not work like a lot of things here. Can you hear that, Jake?
I can hear that. Oh yeah, I can hear that very well.
Hello.
Yo. Look at you trying to sound professional. We're live right now on podcast. Are you selling urchin style baits?
Just a couple. Yeah, I'm just packing up one web order after the other, my friend. That's about it.
How does this compare to other baits that have come out in the past? You've been there for the chatter bait and things like that.
Nothing's even close. Not even close.
Ever.
Yeah, I've never had a bait, and I've been here my entire life, and never had a lure sell like this in my entire life here. I've sold over 1,000 in a week.
Wow. Out of one.
Yeah.
Is he price gouging?
Yes.
I got a question, and it's from Jake. It's not for me. I would never ask you this. As your former babysitter, I babysit this dude, Justin, which explains a lot about him. Justin, are you price gouging?
No, sir. I'm selling them for $8 each.
How much?
$8. I got them on for $7.99.
Oh, he just sold 1 million of those things.
Yeah,
like, you better get your packaging department on steroids tonight, Bubba.
Now.
Wow. So you can't compare this to anything that's come along?
Never. Maybe since the flying lure in the 90s.
Wow. And that's a lure that millions of dollars was spent marketing. And this is a lure that people have tried to keep secret. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let you get back to work. Justin
Monday.
What? What?
That Monday after Chris won. Insane. Like, I probably packed about 120 orders of just koikis on the internet.
I just posted a bitchin' Meba video, so it should help.
Oh, Lord. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Wow, he just went American. Justin Party from Canyons, ladies and gentlemen. I babysat that dude.
That
was my first
itself,
job.
Oh my God! I wish I would have lived in your neighbor. No. That guy is. Did he have to go through mental therapy?
Oh, he's had a lot of.
Or
things.
were you his mental therapy?
No, he's had a lot of things. If you know Justin Party from Canyon Sports, he's got. He's a fun time. I'm
guessing he drinks Bacardi and Cokes.
He's a fun time. He's a good dude. So true story. I went to his father, who has since passed, Roger. When I was 13 years old, they were the local tackle store, and I went and I said, "Hey, I want to work in a fishing store." And he said, "Oh, is this what you want to do for a job?" I said, "No, I have no interest in it. I want to be a professional angler, and I feel like this will help me meet the right people." And he laughed and thought, like, "Wow, if you have the balls to say that, not only are you dumb, but we'll hire you." My first day on the job, I started at a line spooling clinic, which was And in the time, it was a big deal. Like you'd get a lineup out the door, and I put line on backwards to a lot of people's reels, so I apologize for that. But that evolved into Justin and Noel, his sons. Every once in a while, Roger and Natalie would want to go out, and they'd be like, "Hey, you're babysitting." So I was his babysitter for a little while. I don't know if I ever got a paycheck from that place. I bought a lot of tackle, but I wanted to call him just because. To give you an idea, like it's wild what's happening. And that thing he said at the end there, nothing since the flying lure. And laugh at the flying lure as much as you want. But Alex Langer literally bought a chain of radio stations from the flying lure. That's how successful that was. And there was millions of dollars put behind that with infomercials beaten down. And this is something that pros have tried to keep secret for a while. So it's a wild phenomena.
Yeah, it really, I mean, even before that, as a kid, I remember Bill Dance and the banjo lure, and people laughed at that thing because it was basically an elastic drop shot, and you could put any kind of bait on it. It had minnow baits, it had worm baits, it had leech baits, it had crawfish baits. It came with a big bag of baits, and it was just the original rig, and they spent a lot of money marketing that thing. And I remember that thing selling like hotcakes too, where I lived on Kentucky Lake. But this whole now you got me.
You can't say it, right?
That was the
white by the second.
That was the koike is truly an evolutionary phenomenon. I think it's a blast. And I'm going to say this, I won't say the name of the company, but because for your sake, but if you want to see what's coming out next, go check out Yui Aoki's Instagram page and he works with, Daisuke in Japan, and they have, I think he took it down, but he had a post or a story that was up on his page, and he had this bait that looked like Gumby from Eddie Murphy. Gumby from Saturday Night Live, but it was dark, and when he jerked it literally his arms and his feet would go opposite like that. And I watched this thing underwater footage, and I went, oh my God. Like if you were a bass or any kind of predatorial fish, there is absolutely zero chance you could resist it because of the way it just moved. It's unbelievable. So stay tuned, because this is not the final chapter in bait evolution, particularly coming out of Japan. Yeah,
no, it's very cool. Jake probably give you 2.5 things that the pros hide, and the other 2.5 were marginal.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
But get out there and give it a shot. What I do love is it's got people excited about fishing, and that's always a good thing.
100%.
I've spent a bunch of time with the Hide Up Kyoiki, and now I've spent a bunch of time with the Berkeley Meba. I know they're both great baits. There's a lot of them out there. And I don't think it matters what I say. You're going to buy them because they're just buying every kind of them. And it's going to be interesting because we're going to find out. But I also think the thing that's cool about it, I keep going back to how they eat it. They take it deep every time. In all the underwater footage I've shot, it's never a nibble. It's never it's a hoof. It's gone. And I think that's two things. That's whatever they think it is, the way they do it. And it's also water displacement. Like it's a big thing that when they put their vacuum on it, it goes whoop. So it's
I think there's a crusher.
And Jake's got 10 of them.
I do. They're not for sale yet. No.
Oh.
No, because I'm actually going to test this weekend. I'm going to test him with Walker, and I'm going to rig him up some, and I want him to walk around pond fishing just because I know what's about to happen. And there ain't no kids around here fish with koikes.
I don't think that's how you say it.
Koike.
I don't think that's it. Try it again.
Okay, you guys have a good evening. I'm out of here.
We're trying to learn together.
Koike.
Gesundheit. Gesundheit.
That was fun, Dave. That was fun.
Thanks, dude. Just like an urchin style bait that, that conversation had a lot of like tentacles. It went, in a lot of different directions. But I enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. So I ask you this, after all that information, is it for real? What are you thinking? Is it as big a hype as we're hearing? Because it definitely seems like there's something to it. I mean, it's wild. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And by doing that, by giving a thumbs up, by taking the time to give us a thumbs up, that is your way of giving applauso, grazie, to the show. That is your way of helping the grow keep going. That is your way of, stroking the algorithm. So keep stroking the algorithm, keep the grow going. And remember, everybody is fighting a battle. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Spread kindness, spread happiness. Humpers, go out in the world and make the world a better place. And if you can, get yourself an urchin style bait. Get yourself a Berkeley Me bar, because it definitely seems to. I'm not doing that. I regret even thinking of that, because that's how hard those baits are to get. And fish do not eat it like that. They take it. This is a Robert G word, and I love it. They take it in the throat meat. It is exactly what it means. So thank you for watching. I got a little amoeba on my lip there, but thanks for watching. As always, enjoy being. And Bob Cobb, take it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?